our issues, our voices, our views. This is Politics in Black.
I'll give a big Chad. What's happening, family? I am Friday Jones. You are joining us today on Politics in Black from the wonderful Mars Studios in Leimert Park. And today we have with us, we're going right in today. Chad will be pulling up very shortly, but we have with us today a friend to the show. So glad to have her here. She looks fantastic, you guys. Oh my God, from head to toe. Miss Jasmine Canick. Jasmine is a journalist, political strategist, and a constant advocate for the underrepresented and marginalized communities and plain old folks with common sense. She is a proud Gen Xer who calls it like she sees it. Jasmine made her home at the intersection of race, politics, and society long before being an influencer was a thing. She earned her stripes and respect early on for her willingness to speak up on issues, many that people were too scared to address. And so we want to welcome Miss Jasmine to the show.
Hey girl, thanks
How
for having
are you?
me.
So glad to have you back.
Thank you for having me back.
Yes.
Things have calmed down.
Things have calmed down a little bit.
A little bit.
But I think some folks, I don't think the Secretary of State officially calls the votes until December 16th, 12th, December 12th.
So the Secretary of State doesn't call our votes.
Locally,
Our county register recorder clerk will do all of that. And I actually was just looking because I noticed that they changed the update schedule. We got an update yesterday. So I was trying to see where we were in the mayor's race because originally they weren't going to update it until Tuesday, but they updated it yesterday and I didn't even know.
Oh my gosh. Okay, wait. So you're looking at
LAvote.net election results.
Yeah, that's where I'm at too, but I'm not far down enough. Okay, so what does it say about the whole Caruso Karen
I'm looking, girl, because I tune out. I am one of those people who do not really get on social media or the internet Friday through Sunday.
Oh, good for you.
I try my very hardest unless it's something major to take that break. So I had no idea that they had updated the counts. As you know, the last count we had, right? Karen Bass had edged ahead.
Yeah, about 9,000 votes.
Yeah, it was a small margin. So let's see what we got going on here because it's going to be new to me too.
And she was your pick for you do a voter's guide.
I do, reluctantly. I only do my voter's guide because I cannot stand hearing people say that A, they didn't vote, B, they didn't know how to vote, C, well, that name sounded black, so I'm going to choose that person.
Oh, my gosh.
So I try to help folks understand not only who's on the ballot, but what the position is. Like, you need to know the difference between a city attorney and a district attorney and a superior court judge versus an appellate court judge, state senator versus United States senator, right? We should know the difference in these positions, especially when they have so much control over our lives.
Yes, and governance, even in reparations, you know you're in the home of reparations, and governance matters even in how we tell people to advocate for reparations. So that is a very fair point. I wanted to just run down some of the folks that did come out of your list and who came out winners from your, from your voter's guide.
I have a caveat here. So my voter guide is recommendations.
Right.
There are some recommendations that I make that I know are completely against the grain and not popular, and I really don't care because for me, it makes sense, right? Okay. So like, for example, Measure A, I felt I was against Measure A, still am.
Okay.
Still think it's going to go to court and get struck down.
Okay.
But look, I just kind of felt like there are other avenues to deal with the sheriff. And I think for me, that's a slippery slope. I mean, what's next? Or, are we going to come up with another similar proposal to deal with another elected official that we don't like? And who's the checks and balances on the supervisors?
That was the same points that my mom. So voting at my house is a multi-generational thing. And your points were exactly what my mom brought up. And so me, my mom, and my grandmother did our ballots together. And that was one of her concerns with, the Board of Supervisors, given that new power. And she said she felt like there wasn't going to be a forced election. Like, after like the language was sort of unclear with,
It has always been very vague. And just for people who are just don't understand what Measure A is, it was the measure that gave our 5-member LA County Board of Supervisors the power to remove the sheriff for a number of things, a number of if the sheriff violated a certain number of issues, and it came out of the constant conflict, right, that the supervisors were having with the sheriff. And I thought the whole measure was interesting because, one, he was already on the ballot. You could have put that money and energy into making sure that he got defeated. 2, we like our Board of Supervisors now. Most people do. What happens 10 years from now? The Board of Supervisors, they do have term limits.
Right.
The sheriff does not have a term limit. So if you get a conservative board, let's say 10, 15 years from now, they could technically reverse. They could come on and say, well, we don't like this sheriff because he's doing X, Y, and Z, and use Measure A to take him out. I mean, it could also have the reverse effects. And like I said, at the end of the day, a lot of younger people who were supporting this don't have the history of some of the battles that have taken place in Los Angeles with the sheriff's department. Voters voted to give the sheriff term limits at one point. And our former sheriff, Lee Baca, took that to court, and it was struck down. And I remember that part of the reasoning that the judge in the case used was that the state of California is over the sheriff's department, not the county board of supervisors.
Not the Board of Supervisors.
They are responsible for the budget. But, and
Okay.
I'm not trying to get into personality conflicts with people, and it's like, oh, if you go against Measure A, then you're against Holly, and you're against... I'm not against any of them. I think for myself, this is my own position.
So since that's essentially sheriff is under the state, would the measure have been better placed with the power going back to someone at the state level? Maybe the DOJ, or...
I don't know. I mean, at the end of the day, it's really a lot of food for thought. And I found myself really thinking hard about Measure A in light of the recordings that were made public at City Hall, and this idea of checks and balances and how to get people out of office, right? Because we cannot get Kevin De Leon out of office.
Yes, I know.
We cannot make Gil Cedillo leave earlier than he's supposed to leave, and that is really troubling to me, right?
Right.
So I thought about that in the context of Measure A as well, when you have these people. But I just don't know if the Board of Supervisors is the vehicle through which that should be done.
Got you. That's fair. Fair point. Isaac Bryant made it through.
Was there ever a doubt that he wasn't?
No.
Okay.
Not really. I mean, me and
was
my buddy
Was that one of those
Isaac,
races that was a nail biter?
No, it wasn't. But I had to watch him. He and I kind of, we rubbed
Isaac
elbows.
too.
Yes, sometimes. But he won. Reggie Jones Sawyer was unopposed. And so, that was obviously a clear person. He's not necessarily, he's been on the show. I can say he's a friend to the show, but in Reparations world, we also butt heads from time to time. And here's Chad.
What's up, y'all? I ain't gotta say nothing. Y'all know LA traffic. Jasmine, so good to have you back. Good to see you. Absolutely. I was trying to listen in a little bit on the way in. You guys were already into some hot topics. I heard you mention what happened at City Council. Yeah. So I'm really interested because I'm hearing about a recall for KDL. Have you heard about this?
Let's talk about that.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and I actually need to write a piece about that so I can educate people a little bit. So as everyone should know by now, Kevin De Leon, Gil Cedillo, Neri Martinez, Ron Herrera, got caught. That's a whole separate conversation because that deserves a conversation too, just in terms of how all of that went down. But, Kevin has gone on his curated media tour and made it clear that he's not going anywhere. The reason why he is so comfortable in doing that is because the same people that failed 2 times to recall him are the same people who took out recall papers. Right. And if all of the people who were, claimed to be so upset and dismayed by what Kevin said, including all these labor groups and all these elected officials and all these CHRLA and all these other immigration groups and organizations. They know how to run campaigns.
Yes.
They know how to run a recall campaign. If they were actually serious about getting Kevin De Leon out, they would have organized a committee, pulled those papers, and got to work. Instead of letting the same people who failed miserably before, politics make strange bedfellows. The people who pulled the papers, the issues that they have with Kevin would necessarily be our issues.
Correct.
But they're using this issue as to galvanize folks behind them, but they don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
They have no idea how to raise money, how to get how to hire folks to get the petition signed in the district, and all of these things. And because Kevin knows that, he's sitting pretty.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. To be full transparency, we looked into it as an organization. That's not something that we have done before. It's outside of our wheelhouse, but we felt the same sentiment that you did, that one, it would be best served coming from a Black organization, but it does require someone in his district. And unfortunately, none of our board members are members, that live in his.
You don't have to live in the district to organize it. The people who pull the papers do. You hire a political consulting company to come in and run the campaign, to come in, hire the signature gatherers, make sure that you get, enough signatures and then some, right? Because you always get like 20 or so percent more to account for people who signed and didn't know they don't live in the district and stuff. Yeah. So you don't have to live in the district to participate in it. You just have to live in the district
to file the paperwork.
Correct. And that's the issue. And all of these people know that. Everybody around the DSS City Council knows that. All these different organizations claiming, oh, this is so horrible, but standing idly by know this.
It's frustrating. It's very frustrating because we were willing to run essentially the field work and provide the bodies to get the signatures because we have the bandwidth to do that. It was that initial filing. And then I think when we looked into it, like there had to be 120 days and the 120 days takes us over, the ending of the year. And like the whole thing just seemed off. And it seems like he's winning because the things don't line up.
He absolutely is winning.
Yeah.
And, as I told other folks when I was, doing shows prior to the election, for people who already don't vote, for Black folks in particular who already don't vote and are not really trying to get involved in politics, seeing this didn't help.
Absolutely.
Seeing the fact that we couldn't even get these two people out of office after what they said doesn't help people who already feel like their votes don't count, their votes don't matter, nothing I do is going to make a difference. That whole situation at City Hall does not help at all.
Yeah. No, it's concerning on several different levels. And I want to dig a little bit into that too, because the racial pejoratives that we heard, obviously, that was disgusting. But what worries me or concerns me more is this wasn't the first conversation like this that they had, right? And they're in there talking about power balance. They're talking about gerrymandering districts to give more power to one community and disenfranchise and disempower another community. And so moving forward, and I'd like to get your perspective on this because you've been involved in this ear to the street for a long time. Moving forward, as we think about, if let's just say, we're able to remove KDL, we're able to leverage this situation into more power in our communities. What does that look like from a city council perspective? How can we use this situation to actually uplift and undo some of the things that we heard have probably been going on at city council for several years now?
That's a good question. First and foremost, you have to understand many people didn't even know who these people were until this situation.
Oh, yeah, instantly famous.
I could stand on Crenshaw and King and offer $100 to the first person who could name who represents them on the council, the board of supervisors, and let's just say in the state legislature. I probably have my $100 for a real long time.
Not if you bumped into me, you would.
Right on. Right on. But you understand what I'm
do.
saying.
I hear
right?
you.
Yeah.
Yes.
So many people had no idea who Nuri Martinez was,
Wow.
let alone
and she's
Kevin
the president
De Leon.
of City Council.
What does that mean? Many people
Apparently not much.
There are
if
people who
don't know
still
it.
think Antonio. Let me say it as they say it. Antonio Villaraigosa is mayor still. There are literally
Wow.
people who have no idea about any of this, right? So
Wow.
you have to remember, we're starting from that point. We're also starting from a point where we are the type of society where we vote and then we don't pay any more attention till it's time to vote again.
Yeah.
Which is how people get away with all the stuff that they get away with.
Yeah.
Right? And, I always tell this story because it is profound to me. I remember being in Ralph's on Western and Manchester and hearing people complaining about having to pay for their plastic bags.
Mm-hmm.
This was some years ago.
Yeah.
And when
ballot-
did this happen?
that was a ballot measure,
And I was
yeah.
thinking to myself, well, where have you been? They've been debating this in city council.
That's right.
They've been
Yes.
talking about it on the news.
Yes.
And so we're always reacting to things.
Yeah.
We're not very proactive.
Okay.
We're
I
not
agree.
known for being proactive.
I hear you.
And so by the time we get upset about something, it's already sealed, signed, and delivered. And there's not much you can do about it, right? That's part of our problem.
So wait, let's pause there for a second, because I do feel on a level in terms of media and society and socialization, I do feel that from our community, that is the message, right? You vote and that's it. People died for you to vote. People marched for you to vote. Laws were passed so that you can vote. And so exercise your vote. I do feel that from a civic standpoint, when it comes to immigrant communities, as they are naturalized into this country, there is on the questionnaire for their testing, there actually is advice that says, in addition to voting, it's a list of about 6 other things they can do. Join a civics organization. I don't know what the 6 things say, but it's at least 6 different things that it says that they can do. I don't feel like that similar messaging comes back into American society at large, whether you're a Black voter or other, but it definitely does not come from the Democratic Party or the GOP, the 2 main parties, when it's time to vote.
Why would they want you to pay attention?
That's right.
I mean, if you pay attention, that means you're going to be a pain in their ass.
That's right.
They want you to vote and go on about your business so they can do what they do. Let's keep it real, right?
Yeah. And that's what we heard.
And that system has worked for quite some time. There are people now who are very irritated that as much attention is being paid to things as it is right now.
Wow.
Because usually they were able to do things and nobody paid attention. Nobody paid attention to the district attorney's race for decades here in Los Angeles. This is the first time people even paid attention to the city attorney's race. Okay? We're not, known for that. Look, we don't even teach civics in school anymore. What do you expect?
Yeah.
They want us to vote, but don't even teach the importance of civics, the different levels of government.
Which is insane, because we have a neighborhood council here that has 99 different neighborhood councils, that each of those 99 councils have youth seats. So we're doing a disservice even to our youth in that they're not finding out about civics. I'm sure they don't know that they could sit on, the neighborhood council at the age of 16. And so I'm putting this out there. If you're 16 years old and you're in Los Angeles, you can actually sit in the youth seat on your neighborhood council. And I think that those things get lost in translation, and it's frustrating.
Yeah, it is. It's very frustrating, especially for folks, I think, who work in this area and try so hard to help make sure that their community is aware of different things. Just like the grocery bag story, how many times do you hear people complain about their water bill? Oh, my water bill done went up. Yeah, it did. Guess who gets to control your water bill?
Yes.
That would be the city council if you live in the city of Los Angeles.
Yes.
That would be right down there on Spring Street. They're the ones that make the decision on whether or not ratepayers are going to pay more money. They don't hear from you. If you're not screaming and knocking down their doors complaining about it, they just slide it right on through.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about judges. I did appreciate the fact that during the primaries, when you put out your voter guide, you had, I think, about 10 different seats for LA Superior Court. And that's an area where people also don't pay attention, but
that's that. Ooh, Jackson, that sound like a black man. I'm gonna
we're not the only ones that do it. I'm not putting my coworker on blast, but I promise you, she's a Latina, and she was like, if they have a Mexican name, I'm checking the box. So we're not the only ones, right?
I don't think that we are, but that has traditionally been it. I struggle with the judges personally.
Yeah.
I will tell you that I am a Gen Xer. Mm-hmm. I like to believe that I operate with the good common sense God gave me. So I'll be the first to tell you I am not always pleased with our district attorney. And I'm not going to sit up here and romanticize black people and act like, oh, if we just all had jobs and homes, there'd be no crime in LA. That you not could ever hear that come out of my mouth, okay? So I think about all of these things. And mind you, Superior Court is civil court, criminal court. I understand that, right? But I'm thinking, I used to say, oh, we got to stop electing deputy district attorneys into these positions of judge because traditionally for hundreds of years, that's just your springboard into being a judge has always been being a prosecutor. Yeah. I was pleased to see so many deputy public defenders running. I really believe that Rachel Rossi, whose campaign I worked on when she ran for district attorney, and she's now in Washington, D.C., working. But I do believe because she was a federal public defender that really paved the way for a lot of county public defenders to want to step into the ring. However, I need balance. So I don't need all public defenders. I don't need all prosecutors. I need some balance here because I am one of those people who want to know that if you knock my grandma upside the head and rob her, that your ass is going to, there's going to be some consequences. Yeah. I'm not trying to hear nothing about your
background and
free all black people, let everybody out there. And it's not just about black people. As you know, I have helped people go to prison.
Yes, you did.
There's an old white man sitting in prison right now.
Yes,
so it's not just about black people. But I feel more and more that we're operating in a society where we are making excuses for bad behavior. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, maybe it's going to have to get worse before people realize that this is not the direction we need to go in. But so when I think of judges, that's what I think about because we already have this issue with our district attorney's office. There's some things there that make me raise a couple of eyebrows.
And I think we knew that with Gascon coming in though, because some of the things that he did in, where was he? Oakland? San Francisco. Yeah. Some of the things that he did there, I had people in blue kind of like, I don't know that he's so much better. And I'm just saying, that's what I heard.
But remember, a lot of people were voting against Jackie Lacey more so than for Gascon. So that's an issue there, too. And look, I believe in constructive criticism. Yes. There is, I know elected officials, get their panties in a bunch and want to clutch their pearls anytime there's any criticism of that's a part of the job. That's the job you signed up for. Absolutely. There's always going to be criticism, right? Yeah. So, but in that criticism is where we get to have these dialogues and these conversations, and it cannot always be just the loudest people in the room, right? And so, yes, I tell people all the time, I'm going to advocate for criminal justice reform. Now, what that looks like for you may be different from what it looks like for me, but I'm going to advocate for criminal justice, just like I'm going to advocate for, us to deal with police misconduct, right? Yeah, correct. You can do both things, and for some reason, there are people in our community who believe you either got to do this or do that, and you can't. Yeah. No, I don't operate in that world. Yeah. And I never will operate in that world. You can
because we don't live in one or the other. We live in both. So
right, and so I think our bench needs to reflect not only the diversity of our community, but also, I honestly, I made a joke the other day, but it really wasn't a joke, but I guess it kind of was. Do you remember that chase that happened
the other night? Yes.
I had some popcorn, bro.
That's LA entertainment right there.
It is. Whenever
you should have heard.
No one ever
riveted.
Escaped.
No, don't go in the house. Oh my God! Like
You were not alone.
I was literally commentating over the whole. I was better than the helicopter dude on the news.
Oh
I
my
had
God.
much better commentary. But I remember joking to my friend on the phone, well, if he's under 18, he'll be out by dinner and they'll be driving him home and tell him don't do that again.
Yeah.
And, you know, some people be like, oh, I can't believe she said that. But look, you know, I don't like blanket policies on a lot of things. I believe we should take things on a case-by-case basis, not this blanket policy that just says, oh, well, if you're under this age, we're never going to prosecute you as an adult and this and that. And, you know, and I also don't believe people who say that, you know, the people committing the crimes don't know that this is the case. Mm-hmm. Just like they know how much stuff they can steal at the store before it turns into.
They tend to
Let's be clear. They know what is going on.
Yes.
And so, you know, I was joking, but I was just trying to, you know, because a lot of my friends work in law enforcement and are, you know, either, you know, prosecutors or attorneys and things like that. And so we all have these different, and even my activist friends, right? My abolitionist friends, luckily for me, I have friends all around the whole gamut. Mm-hmm. You should hear our conversations whenever I can get them all in the same room.
Let's get them all in here.
It's always a good time.
Oh my gosh.
But, you know, it's just, I worry so much. So when I think about the judges, those are the things that I think about. It's like, we need to have some balance. Again, I'm happy to see so many county public defenders running.
There were a lot.
I think that was really great. Mm-hmm. And I think we're starting to finally break up that monopoly of deputy district attorneys on the bench. Now, I'm not anti-deputy district attorney, but I don't think all of the judges should be former district prosecutors.
Yeah. No, that makes perfect sense.
I agree with that.
So since we're on criminal justice, we only have a few minutes here. We don't have a sheriff yet. Is that correct? Are we still?
No, it looks like Luna is going to.
Yeah, he pulled out front.
Is pulling it out, and I'm really grateful for that. I mean, Alex really does need. Alejandro need to go.
Okay.
And it's long past due, and it almost makes Measure A moot issue now.
Right.
He
was the problem child.
But, you know, again, you know, pay attention to Luna.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I was going to ask.
So
I don't know anything about
I could never
him.
really fully. Now, you know, I was one of the consultants on Eric Strong's campaign, and Eric, obviously, as you know, came in third. Mm-hmm. I could never really get a good answer from Luna on what his plan was for Black folks in LA County.
Okay.
On anything, and if you come at me with a some of my greatest friends are Black answer, you know, and he did do that at Tavis Smiley's forum.
Wow. Okay.
You know, I'm worried, and of course, obviously, it's not just, you know, Black people he has to be concerned about. But if someone asks you a question, a point blank question, about what your plan is, not only for Blacks in the community, but also how you're going to deal with the Black folks in the department, right?
Yeah.
Because under our current sheriff, a lot of Black deputies haven't fared well.
Yeah, in overtime, in promotions,
all of those things. Yeah. The name of the game in law enforcement is always promotion, right?
Yeah.
You know, so I don't know. So it'll be really interesting. But here's the thing. We've now had 2 one-term sheriffs, Jim McDonald and Alex Villanueva. These are no longer lifelong positions. It used to be when you got elected sheriff, you were there for life. Lee Baca would still be there if he had not had the legal problems that he had, right? Yeah. Sherman Block would probably still be there if he was still alive and hadn't slipped and, you know, had his accident, right? We have to stop looking at these positions as lifelong positions. So what I tell everybody is when someone new is elected, their first term in office is a get to know you period. If we get to know you and we don't like you, we're going to move on to the next. And that's the beauty of democracy and elections. You can do that. You don't have to keep electing the same person over and over again.
Strategic. Thank you. Because that is also an area where I feel like we as a people, we get comfortable too quick. We go, I voted. Oh, that's the person I voted for last time, but we haven't done our own look back, right? We haven't.
Yeah.
Some people merit being reelected over again. There are lots of people I could think of right here in LA County who actually do the job we sent them in there to do. But there are a lot of people who don't. There are a lot of people who job hop. There are a lot of people who job hop and never even finish a term in the office that they won before. We have a lot of that going on.
We have a lot of that too in like Black leadership, and I feel like there needs to be like a club of, okay, we all get together and figure out who's moving where, why.
They have that club. You're
how.
just not part of it. They have that meeting. Oh, they have that meeting. You don't think that these folks? I used to believe me. They have these meetings, and you have been crowned.
Yes.
You can run for office. You will wait for 10 years.
Yeah.
They have that. That's what needs to be broken up, because that's how you end up with the same people over and over and over and over and over again. And there are a couple of people in office here now who are so out of touch with life in 2022 right now.
Well,
it is absolutely amazing. But because of their name, they get reelected over and over and over again. So we've had, we need to have these conversations. We need to encourage people to run. ADEMS is coming up. I'm going to be working very, very hard to get more people to run, to be delegates in the party. You can be a registered Democrat from morning to night, but unless you're a delegate, you have no voice, you have no vote.
Well,
you get to say nothing.
Let's talk, because I'm not an alternate anymore. After redistricting
that's
from
the county
LACDP,
central.
yes, I know.
Yeah.
But my point is, since I don't have responsibility, I'm like, let's get on to the next thing.
Yeah, so you should run at the assembly level. We just had redistricting, so you're in a new assembly district, and you should run, memory serves me right, top 7 women, top 7 men, 14 people elected. And throughout the 80 assembly districts is what makes up the delegates in the California Democratic Party. Those are the people who set the platform. Those are the people who, decide what we deal with and what we don't deal with. Those
that's where when you hear like in social media, and I don't want to be like social media is real life all the time, but I do think that one message that is coming clearly through social media is the fact that Black folks are disenfranchised with the party. And the best way for us to be enfranchised is to actually go for these positions that you're talking about to drive the party platform where we want it to go.
Black people need to decide what it's going to be. Because at the end of the day, we complain a lot about the Democratic Party, and we show right on up and do their bidding every single time. We complain, we mad. I have a friend who shall remain nameless, who is now, she says to me, I'm leaving the Democratic Party after this election. I'm going to register as an independent. I said, well, I hope you don't mean you're going to register as an American independent. I hope you mean you're going to register as no party preference, because those are two completely different parties. Yeah. And I just want you to know that if you register as an American independent in California, you're going to be right of the right of the right. And I don't think that's where you want to go.
That's right.
So we don't even understand the difference between what independent and no party preference means.
Yeah.
We get mad and I'm leaving and I'm just going to go be an independent. Well, if you're in California, think about that decision right quick. You might mean MPP, no party preference. That's right. But we do need to get into the Democratic Party because it's a lot of lip service. So the party will always say Black Lives Matter. But, they don't do things that show that Black Lives matter.
Tangibly, yeah.
Right. Okay, we got 1 minute.
Okay.
We covered judges. We talked about the mayor's race, which we know we don't have these final numbers yet. No one's conceding. I love this new era though that we're in. Whether we like it or not, no one's conceding.
It's Trump.
It is. This is the era of Trump.
We got deniers. I fully expected Alex Villanueva to deny the results.
Really?
I really did.
Wow.
I thought he was going to be our biggest election denier.
But that gap was so huge that we couldn't. He could. You pay attention to Herschel Walker and Raphael? He could. Let me tell you.
That's a whole nother.
That is a whole other. Everybody, please send your money.
Every email I have, I don't even know how that's possible.
I gave money to Warnock. I'm going to continue to give money because even though we meaning the Democrats have taken control, not we like we as in master our house is on fire, just we because I am a registered Democrat, have taken over we're going to retain control of the Senate, but still Herschel Walker cannot be a part of the Senate. I could not be forced to have to hear that man on television. I cannot.
So let me ask you this, Jasmine, because I think you make a really good point here. And watching that race, watching what happened to Stacey Abrams, watching what's happening here with Karen Bass and Caruso, even though those are two Democrats, for me it feels
no. One is a Dino.
Okay, all right.
One is a Democrat in name only who registered as a Democrat to run for mayor.
So as listed, okay,
on paper.
And it feels like, when I look at like the Walker Warnock, it feels like Warnock he should have dogged Walker, right? So the fact that it's this close, I know the Democrats said, they haven't lost the seats that they're expecting to lose, but it still feels like it was more of a threat than it should have been. There's more of a scare than it should have been. And I think that speaks to what you were saying earlier about them really not offering their core base anything to really show up for, right? Versus just like, we're not the Republicans.
That's basically the talking points. Let me tell you, the Democrats spent the entire election season talking about abortion.
Yes.
So for people who live in California, I'm just going to be honest with y'all. Proposition 8 was symbolic, okay? Yeah. Well, nobody taking abortions away from Californians, okay?
Isn't it in the Constitution? It's in the Constitution.
But it was great to raise money for and to campaign. You know what people voted on? Crime, homelessness, and the economy.
Yeah,
right.
That's the issues, the three issues that people care about.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
And, while the Democrats are busy, on abortion, the Republicans are talking about the economy and are talking about these other issues, even if it's from a point of view that we don't agree with.
And reaching out to other communities as well.
They spent extra dollars apparently, which I thought was an interesting tactic, and we'll see in the long run how it pans out once like all of these results come in from across the nation. But the GOP spent dollars on diversity, and not ironically talking about their platform, but just pushing like diversity in the party. And I thought that was interesting. So we'll see what that means.
There's nothing the Republican Party has to offer any self-respecting, conscious Black person.
I agree with that.
I'm not saying the Democrats are much better.
But,
this is not a reference. This is not me saying the Democrats are better. I'm just saying that because people say, we have to choose between two evil. Evil is evil.
Yeah.
Let's be clear. Evil is evil. So I'm just saying. I mean, come on now. This is the party that doesn't want you to have an abortion, but also don't want to help you if you need any help raising your. They could care less if the child got clothes, got anything, So yeah. I mean, it's just and then that whole Herschel Walker and his little abortion situation and that whole. Yeah. I'm just like, I saw a lady on the news that was like, well, if it is true, but it's not true. But if it is true, he's a Christian and he's forgiven, but it's not true. I'm like, these people are crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Everything.
You nailed it earlier. Like we got to get more engaged.
I personally wouldn't care. It's just that you said you don't. I mean, he could have just said I don't support abortions anymore. All he had to add was the anymore. Yeah. This idea that you never. That's where he messed up at.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's put a pin here.
Okay.
We want to have you back when you're ready to
reach out.
to run. No, seriously, when you're ready to start talking about. The getting in
ADEMS is now because the election is in January, so the party's having their first Zoom meeting to explain the process on Tuesday. I'll forward you the email if you want to
forward
share it.
We will blast it out. I'll post it and repost it. And give people, if you are not following her on social media, you need to because Jasmine talk about a lot of different things.
To you raw
Monday
and real.
through Thursday.
Raw and real.
So give the folks your social media where they can find you.
I'm at, I've been on Twitter long enough to have my name. So I'm Jasmine on Twitter, JASMYNE. Same thing on Facebook. I have two people are like, you have two Facebook pages. Yes, I do. I have 5,000 on one, so you know how you had it. Okay, and then I have like a page, so either one is fine. And then on Instagram, I'm Hello Jasmine. I don't really mess with TikTok. I find that is extremely distracting to my world.
So give it up for Jasmine Canick, and she really does have one of the easiest names, JASMYNE on social media.
Thank
you again,
Thank
Jasmine.
you so much.
Thank you so much. I'm
Love
literally sending you the information right now.
Awesome. Okay, so we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back. Oh.
What's happening, family? I didn't get to do it at the beginning, so I hit you right.
knew.
Yeah, no, I got it.
Had
I was
to
going to
get it
surprise
out.
you. I was going to surprise you. I had it planned the whole time. How's everybody doing? Hope everybody's having a great Sunday. Sorry to be late, but that was a great conversation. I was listening on the way in traffic with Jasmine, and she always brings a lot of knowledge and a lot of fire. So I appreciate you guys covering the base while I was coming in. So I just got here, so I gotta tell y'all, please, if you like what we do here, if you want to support the show, you want to support the advocacy, hit the Cashapp, hit the Venmo, $ NAASD-LA, or you can also support in the super chat while we are live here. So please help us continue doing this. So next up, we're going to the Midwest, right? We're going to Illinois?
Are going to the north and
Okay.
to the Midwest.
Okay.
Illinois, Chicago, one of my favorite. I'm a New Yorker, and Chicago is actually my favorite city. It's just too cold. And so with that said, we have two very special guests, Representative William Davis and activist Lucretia Burtz. Let's introduce Representative Davis first. He was born July 2nd, 1968 in Harvey, Illinois, and graduated from Southern Illinois University in Carbondale in 1989, earning a Bachelor of Arts degree in political science. He is currently completing his Master's of Public Administration degree at Governor State University. He is a member of Kappa Alpha Psi fraternity and founding member of the Better Funding for Better Schools Coalition. He serves on the foundation board of South Suburban College. Davis has been recognized as the Legislator of the Year by the Illinois Association of Code Enforcement, the Illinois Primary Healthcare Association, and the Illinois Association of Parks Districts. We also have our very own NAASD Nationals board member, Lucretia Burtz. Lucretia is a Chicago native who is deeply devoted to restorative and economic justice. In 2019, Lucretia co-founded the Black Remembrance Project and initiated a citywide campaign to get Juneteenth recognized as an official holiday. She recently became a part of the statewide group called the Illinois Rejects Racist Reparations. Lucretia is a member of the National Assembly of American Slavery Descendants, NAASD, a national group fighting for reparations for descendants of U.S. chattel slavery and American freedmen. Welcome to Politics in Black.
Representative Davis and Lucretia.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Glad to be here this evening.
Absolutely. Thank you for taking some time out on your Sunday, sir. And Lucretia, it's always good to see you. So we want to jump right in here with you guys. We wanted to bring you together. I don't think you've met previously or know each other, so this is good. You are both in the same space there in Illinois, and I think both focused on the same things. But Lucretia, I want to start with you because part of the impetus behind having you here with the representative is there was a call to action that you guys put out about a week ago, if I'm not mistaken, around the reparations, and I won't remember exactly what you're calling it, but I think it's African Descendant Reparations Commission or something like that in Illinois, at the state level in Illinois. And it's based on a bill that Representative Davis here has authored and passed through the state legislature. So I understand there's some concerns. We want to make sure we talk about those concerns with the representative here, and Representative Davis. We definitely want to get your history behind the bill, how it came to be, et cetera. But Lucretia, I want to start with you. If you could bring us up to speed on that call for the folks who weren't able to participate live.
Yes. So can you all hear me okay?
We can hear you. We got you.
Okay, great. Thank you. So first and foremost, it's a pleasure to be on the show. I really appreciate the work that you all are doing. But yeah, last week, we had a call to action in Illinois around the Illinois African Descent Slavery, the Illinois African Descent Citizens Reparations Commission. And it's a new commission that has been in existence for a while, but really didn't have anybody seated on it. And so, some folks, including myself, have been organizing behind the scenes to get people to be on this commission. Mm-hmm. And we noticed that there was somebody outside of the realm of who we knew that was on the commission. And somebody, not me, did some research and found that this person had slaveholders in their lineage. And so there was a question around, how is this acceptable to the governor's office? So we reached out immediately to the governor's office. And for those who don't know, last week, Chicago just had an election. And so this was right around the time when we were about to, go through the election process of the governor and other state representatives and such. And basically, we asked for clarity before the election. Like, we wanted to know, like, is this okay? Why do you? And we also said that this person should be removed.
Yeah.
And so we got correspondence back from the governor's office, from the chief of staff, and they basically said they defended their pick of this person, and they said it was okay, essentially, for slaveholders to be on this commission. And so we did a call to action. We had a community meeting because we wanted, folks in our region to know about this. And so we tried to get the word out as quickly as we could. And because we gave the opportunity to the governor's office to do something about it, and they opted, to stand by their decision. And so we're now just trying to spread the word. And we're also looking at how is this process around the commission, because it's to my understanding, and Representative Will Davis can explain, that there's supposed to be direct slavery descendants on this commission, at least 8 people. And from what I know about the process, I don't even think they've been doing their research on people's lineage to make sure that that standard is being followed. So I hope that explains it. Feel free to ask any questions.
That does. And so Governor of Illinois, J.B. Pritzker, is that correct? Okay,
Pritzker,
so I just want to make sure folks understand who we're talking about here. And the bill number, is that HB, please refresh my memory here.
Oh my gosh, I do not know the bill number.
We'll come to you, Representative Davis, since this is your bill. So we'll come to you here. If you could just bring us up to speed on this piece of legislation, what was the motivation behind the authorship and the sponsorship of this piece of legislation, and kind of where are you coming from on this bill, or on this law now?
Well, first of all, thank you all for having me on the show.
Sir.
I do
Absolutely
appreciate it. Ms. Burtz, I'm looking forward to connecting with you in the future. And again, as legislators, we welcome feedback and information. So some of what you shared just moments ago, I was not aware of. So hopefully this is the beginning of building a connection.
Absolutely.
So that when folks like you that are around issues like this, and you come across pertinent information, you have avenues by which to share this. I don't know if you share this with other legislators in the state, but certainly the first time that hearing about it, and want to work with you to try to make this commission exactly what we had hoped it would be. So a couple of years ago, I was approached by a Chicago businessman named Willie Wilson. And he talked about the idea of reparations in a very broad sense. And he had a cohort of people that he was working with to try to bring forward some conversation in Illinois about reparations and exactly what that meant. So the way we walked into it is we decided that a piece of legislation established a commission to try to wrap its arms around this, to try to really get to the root of what that meant for us here in Illinois, what we would want to do with something like this. What exactly is reparations? I mean, you talk to different people, you kind of get different definitions of what that means or what that is, and who's impacted by it. So the commission, at least in Illinois, is one way that we walk into conversations about trying to gather information so that we can make informed decisions about what we need to do moving forward. And you are absolutely, Ms. Burtz is absolutely right. That commission sat dormant for a very long time. And this wouldn't be the first commission that has been in law that this governor has kind of sat dormant on and not made any movements toward it. But nevertheless, you see that happening. There are some appointments that have been made to that commission. And I've been in contact with some individuals that are around the reparations movement who would like to be appointed to it. We trust, or should I say, we would like for the appointing entities. And as a legislator, personally, I am not in the appointment space, meaning I don't make appointments. That's left up to legislative leaders and the governor's office to make those appointments. So they're getting feedback from individuals who want to be on commissions, and to the extent in which research should have been done for the individual that you spoke of, or whatever the case may be. Maybe that hasn't happened exactly the way it should, but again, I think we have the opportunity to make corrections, to do a better job of making sure that the individuals appointed to a commission such as this are indeed the right people to bring the conversation together so that we can make, again, informed decisions. about that in the future. And I'm blanking on the bill number myself. But anybody that's listening, if you someone said it's House Bill 5024.
5024. Yeah, I just Googled it here. Yeah.
Anything that we do in Illinois, we have a website, www.ilga.gov. Again, www.ilga.gov. You go onto that website and you can find anything that the legislature is doing, whether it's in the current General Assembly, which is last year and upcoming, the last 2 years, excuse me. We just had an election, and so we will be seating, I should say, another General Assembly come January of next year that'll be in place for the next 2 years. That will be the 103rd General Assembly. So this bill was passed in the 102nd, and you can look up bills in 102nd or any previous General Assemblies if you desire to do so, and you can see all the legislators that were in office at that particular time. So there's an opportunity if you want to do deeper research about any legislator, any bill or action that was taken on the bill in Illinois. That's one way to do it. So again, being a part of this discussion and hearing from Ms. Burtz, again, come to an opportunity to have a deeper conversation with her where she can share more details about what she's suggesting to me and other legislators who are interested in this. So again, we can do the right thing and try to move this conversation forward in the appropriate manner.
No, Representative Davis, thank you for that. That is exactly what we are attempting to do here, is connect you. You know, we're out in Los Angeles. We've been in the reparations space for several years now, and obviously you're aware of what's happening in California with our own reparations task force here. So, you know, we are tuned in, and we're a national network, and Lucretia is in Illinois along with several other reparations activists that we are connected to. And so when we learned of this, the African Descent Commission, you know, we definitely wanted to get more information. And so one of the things that was really concerning was when I read the response from Governor Pritzker's office, it really was disrespectful, for lack of a better word. I mean, the chief of staff there, and I'm not sure the name, and I'll let you call that name if you want to, Lucretia. But the chief of staff there basically said, you know,
Ann Caprera.
Thank you. Ann Caprera basically said that, you know, we don't care what you think, you know, descendant community, this is what it's going to be. And please don't, you know, say anything else about it. There it is. There's the letter. So leave that up on the screen
for
a second so folks can read
let's just talk about this particular, this last sentence here, or this sentence in particular. The vile reality of chattel slavery sadly means that many descendants of enslaved Black people are also tragically the descendants of white slave owners. Yeah. I am of Irish ancestry, and I talk often about my Irish ancestors who came to the United States from Ireland, fought in the Revolutionary War, and then became slave-owning farmers. And my great-great-grandfather imported my great-great-grandmother about 7 generations ago from the Congo into Charleston, South Carolina. And although he had a wife, he fathered about 10 kids with his wife and fathered about 8 or 9 kids with my great-great-grandmother. And so, you know, I know Ann Caprera. I think this is what we would refer to as white privilege, because one, I don't consider my lineage, heritage, you know, as American as it is, to be a tragedy. It's factual. It is what it is. And I think to use that as a rebuttal to say, well, you know, Black people are descendants of slave owners too. Well, we didn't get the whiteness. We didn't get the business. Yep. We didn't get the laws of protection and equal protection. And I think that is the part of her argument that she is missing. Even though that may be a factual truth, it doesn't mean that we inherited, if you will, the social class and society and benefits and economics of being white. And I think, Lucretia, if you could just talk in terms of what you had hoped to see. I think California has done a very good job in terms of the people who are on our commission. I think the city of Los Angeles has done a very good job. And now, you know, Representative Davis, you are in this position to help facilitate the job that Illinois needs to do. And I just would like to hear from Lucretia, you know, about this particular response from Ann Caprera. I'm going to keep saying the chief of staff's name so that maybe one of her friends can tell her she's being talked about with reparationists on a national platform.
That's
So
right.
Lucretia.
Her name is Ann Caprera.
Yes.
Caprera.
Yes.
Caprera.
Yeah, let's keep saying her name. Actually, let's keep saying her name. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Please.
Thank you.
So Lucretia,
Yes.
let us know where we stand now.
So the organization I'm with, Illinois Rejects Racist Reparations, it's a spinoff of Evanston Rejects Racist Reparations.
Yeah.
And for those who don't know, Evanston passed a quote unquote reparations ordinance in their city that gives money to people from cannabis sales that was legalized. And we think some folks believe that it's not actually reparations.
It's not.
And
It's a housing lottery, but go ahead.
exactly. It's a housing lottery. And so in that vein, right, I emerged with this group, Illinois Rejects Racist Reparations, because we're seeing this pattern emerge of people doing things and using the name reparations, but there's nothing really reparatory about it, or it doesn't really follow the international standard of reparations, right? Where there's non-repetition, and I forget the five, but you know what I'm saying.
Compensation, restitution, rehabilitation, satisfaction, guarantees, and non-repetition. And shout out to Camilla Moore, who's coming up last, because she has drilled that in my head.
Yes. Thank you, Chad.
Yes.
But when we saw this response from Ann Caprera, we felt it was disrespectful. We felt that it also is kind of insensitive, right, to the lived reality of Black people, because when we told her that we were concerned about this person being on the commission with this slaveholding history, there's a lot around that person, but I'll just say this. The ethnic identity of that person was not known to us as well, right? Yeah. And so we were trying to understand, what is the standard around the Reparations Commission? Who are you allowing on this commission? And she just, I think that the attitude is that, just trust our decisions. We know what's best for y'all community. And the elephant in the room is that we see what's happening with the Jewish community right now with, folks who they have, penalized with consumer dollars, right? Or getting businesses to stop associating with certain folks because they feel like their community was disrespected. And this is a disrespect to our community. Absolutely. We know that there would never be a commission around Jewish people with people who are Nazis on it. Absolutely. Right? Absolutely. And that is the equivalent in this situation. We're saying that we don't want people who benefited from our ancestors' harm making decisions about what the repair should be.
Yep.
And so,
which also goes against the international standard.
I was going to go there, because what we see in international standards is the victim group determines the satisfaction, restitution, compensation, rehabilitation, and guarantees of non-repetition.
So, Representative Davis, let's hop into the membership of this particular commission and how the members are selected. Can you talk about who makes those decisions with the language from this particular bill?
I got it right here. You want to read it?
Well, I believe that the membership is appointed by the governor, as well as I believe other legislative leaders. So Illinois, you've got the Speaker of the House, President of the Senate, then you got the minority counterparts in each chamber as well. Yeah. So they are making decisions about who gets appointed to that. Now, I can't speak to what rationale any of them are using to make those decisions. Some of those decisions are legislators, and then some are people representing various groups or entities, and that's kind of described in the language itself. So someone applies, and in Illinois, to apply to be on the board of commission is an application process, for lack of a better way of putting it. And then you kind of identify under which category, for what it's worth, that you are looking to be appointed in that respect. Yeah. So again, as those applications are coming in, and those of course being made to the individuals that I mentioned earlier, they are looking at that. Now, again, I've not been consulted by any side about someone who is desiring to be on our commission in particular. Again, we know that some of those individuals are legislators appointed by, again, the different chambers. So not that I know who Ms. Burst is speaking of particularly, but if they happen to be Republican and they are a legislator, then there is no diversity on their side of the aisle in that respect.
So
they're just looking at what members.
Representative Davis, I just thank you for sharing that. So we are active reparationists, like we are super active, and in California, once this legislation passed, and same thing, you know, our governor, the Speaker of the House, and some other legislators were able to appoint to different positions. CJEC, the Coalition for a Just and Equitable California, actually stepped out in front as a coalition of different reparations organizations statewide and provided each of those people who were able to make those appointments with our criteria of what we expected them and how we expected them to choose. I know in Illinois, I know that in Cobra in particular, in Chicago, and NARC, they have, you know, had a stronghold. They work with Representative Conyers prior to his passing on HR 40, and, you know, they have been moving these municipal representatives. But I do have to ask the question, have any organizations, including Lucretia's organization, said, hey, this is what we want you to do. These are the short list of people that we know meet our criteria, and this is how we want you to move forward. Has anything like that happened?
So Friday, yes. So what our organization did prior to us becoming this new entity, Illinois Rejects Racist Reparations, we sent the governors a list of folks who we thought should be on the commission. And we had those people apply to be on the commission. And actually, some of those people made it onto the commission. So we didn't like verbalize our standard or what we were looking for. We did that behind the scenes. We had those people go through our own internal vetting process. And then we made the recommendations to them once they demonstrated that they were serious about applying. So that work has been happening behind the scenes. And now we are, after this situation where we realize after having people that we vetted go through and apply to the commission that they're not checking for lineage at all. There's no way that, like, they have not demonstrated how they're verifying who's actually descendants of slavery. Because you can be Black, but that doesn't mean you're a descendant of slavery, right?
Lucretia, let's stop right there, because in the act, in HB 5024, it calls for, and I'm just going to read this, Section 7, 10 members of the public appointed by the governor, at least 8 of whom are African-American descendants of slavery. So what you're saying is the current process is not fulfilling the spirit and the written letter of the statute.
Right.
Okay.
And so we tried to go through that process, looking at the legislation and how it's drafted. And now we're seeing that they're not even following their own standard. Right. Even with the letter that we received from Ann Caprera, she was like, how dare you go look up the record or the lineage of this person? And again, I didn't look up the lineage. Somebody sent this information.
But that's also, as reparationists, that's something we do. That's something that we encourage. And even though she's offended by it, it's actually part of the reparationist culture. I mean, we used to have field trips to do this specific work because we want people to know who they are. So she's offended and not realizing that it's a cultural difference in this space that she herself is just completely unaware of.
I'm offended.
But not even just cultural, right? Like, this is in their legislation that they're supposed to be doing this work to verify who's the actual descendant.
Yes.
And they're not doing it. And so now that we know that they're not even following the legislation and they've been delaying this process of the commission, we are going to reorganize folks in Illinois to create a criteria around the commission, and we're going to present that back to the governor's office. So we're in the process of doing some of that now.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but let me just say real quick.
Go ahead.
This is where I think the disconnect is. So, and I appreciate that, Ms. Burns, all the work that you and your team have put in, and you sent that to the governor's office. So, we didn't know that the governor's office should have informed even the legislators that they are ready to start making appointments to this commission. So I didn't know that they were making appointments until I heard about it somewhere down the road. But then also the disconnect is that a governor, while he can make these appointments because that's legislated, it's still a piece of legislation that was passed by legislators. And until this call, you and I have never met before. So we have to make sure that we close the disconnect because it's important for organizations like yours and others to inform legislators of what you're doing and what you're trying to do. Some of, and I can't say this for 100% certain, but some of, I think, the pushback that you got from the governor's chief of staff, and I'm not surprised that she pushed back in that way. She's pushed back on other issues. particularly related to Black people in other spaces. But that's because, again, you that conversation was had just the governor's office. So now it's an opportunity for us to engage in a bigger way. Your organization, folks like yourself and others, and legislators, to have a conversation about how we'd like to see this commission set up. So again, the governor's office missed an opportunity to bring some folks in and bring us together. And I think the other opportunity was missed from your end because you talked directly to the governor. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, not at all, not a bad thing, but let's make sure we're bringing everybody to the table to have these conversations. So I look forward to meeting in the future so we can do that.
Awesome.
Go ahead, Lucretia.
I just really want to say real quick, even though I did not reach out to Representative Davis, we did reach out to others in the House in leadership, right? Okay. The Speaker of the House, when we came out with our recommendations, we did send our list to them as well. And we didn't receive any correspondence. There was nothing, right? The only correspondence that we got was when we found out this information about this particular person appointed on the commission. And we said that if you don't respond in 24 hours, right, then we're going to give this to the public. Right. And so that was the only time we even heard anything. So I do apologize for not reaching out to you, but do know that we have reached out to some legislators.
Yeah. And I think from this point, this is why we're here today, Representative Davis. So we can start, as you said, building these bridges and connect you with, community advocates that have been in this reparations space. I mean, Lucretia has been in this space for several years now, doing very great work in Illinois and in the Chicago area. So one thing I want to, because out here in California, the big advantage that we had was the bill author, Dr. Shirley Weber, who was in the California State Assembly when she authored the bill, who is now Secretary of State. She was a champion for her legislation out here from soup to nuts, from development. She was open to us and allowed us to come into the room and add amendments, add language to that piece of legislation to make sure that, number one, it was specific to our community. And I want to commend you up front because I'm reading this as we're talking, and I do see this is lineage specific. This particular piece, HB 5024, is lineage specific. So that's great to see. But also we added language that made sure that anything that came out of California could not be interpreted as standing in front of or replacing what we all know needs to be a federal effort for reparations. So I wanted to dig in a little bit on the lineage language that I see in here, African American descendants of slavery, because that's very specific. That's language that's similar to what we use out here. We further qualify it with freedmen, but I want to get where you heard that phrasing and how you came to that in authoring the bill.
Well, again, I work with a group of individuals in an organization called Cobra. Gentleman Cam Howard out here in Illinois was a part of this conversation here. And so I think he was one of the folks really pushing HR 40 government level. So he was very much a part of drafting this particular language. Dr. Wilson helped provide some of the financial backing that he did to allow these people to come together to make that language a reality. And what you see is, again, language that we ultimately, so there were people who were smarter than I in this space to help work on to try to get the language together. So
that's awesome.
Even this language, we can even make changes to this. There's a need to enhance what we're doing. So there's an opportunity to enhance this Reparations Commission, to take additional things into consideration if need be. And then, of course, again, the commission's job ultimately is to set the tone for legislation to try to actually address the issues appropriately moving forward. That then will be introduced by members of the they need at any given time, move those things forward. Presumably, governors sign it in. But more than likely, there's going to need to be appropriations for it. I don't have this or talking about where dollars are going to come from for it, or to help realize whatever is determined that reparations really is, whether it's free education, whether it's some level of free health care, whether it's help for small businesses, for those that have them. I mean, there's a broader conversation that we will get to. This commission's job is to help bring us and get us to that conversation. And I'm looking forward to the work of this commission to get us to that point. I've been in the legislature now for 20 years. I don't necessarily have a whole lot of time left to stay in the legislature, but I want to see this kind of thing to a reality. I want to be a part of making it a reality and getting it to where, you know, we realize what reparations is or are, and then implement whatever we feel that it is. So part of that is going to be how we are in politics moving forward. If Illinois switches parties, particularly at the governor's level, we're going to catch hell trying to do that. Yeah. No question about that. So whether it's this governor or any future governors, hopefully they stay on what I feel is my side of the aisle, where I think that conversation and broadly will be more receptive. But we also have to make sure that even in an administration, they have people that are sensitive and understand what we're trying to do. Awesome. Again, this will not be the first time, in my opinion, that Ann Caprera has, you know, been insensitive to something that we're trying to do, and as well as working in the administration.
Well,
you know,
this is a national conversation. This is a national conversation, and so we got to thank you. Yes, we thank you so much for putting forth the legislation, for being thoughtful in your language, and for being open.
Yeah, please engage with Lucretia on the ground there. You know, we don't have time here to kind of get into the last 4 years of what the work that we've been doing, but there are very real concerns that we have about some of the other reparations programs that we're seeing. You heard about Evanston. There's one in High Point, North Carolina, that's very concerning. You know, they're not looking at it as lineage specific. So anyway, the point being, Representative Davis, let's stay connected.
Absolutely.
Lucretia is within the community. She is of the community, and she is doing this work. She represents a national organization. So please connect with her, bring her into this process, and use her as a resource.
Yeah, and we also at the national level do municipal roundtables. Our next one, I'm looking to lock in a date, but I know it will be hopefully before December 15th. I will make sure that you receive an invitation to that, because we do try to help municipalities understand what happened in California, where this lineage reparations can go at the municipal level. And so I definitely want to make sure that we include you in those opportunities to share ideas and thoughts and conversations as we all are moving to do similar work. And today you could have been anywhere else, but you chose to be here with us at Politics in Black. And so we want to thank you so much for being here with us.
Yeah, thank you, Representative Davis. Lucretia, as always, thank you. You know, we'll be talking. But this is very important. So let's stay connected and let's stay communicating.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you. Have a great rest of your Sunday. And thank you, Lucretia.
All right. We're going to take
commercial?
A quickie break here.
Quickie break. Hit the Cashapp. Hit the Venmo. Oh, we're not taking a break. See?
We moving. We rolling. Look, I'm following things here. So let's keep the show
Hit the Cashapp.
going.
Hit the Venmo. $ NAASD-LA. Or donate via the Super Chat. Help us keep this thing going. You see what we're trying to do. Y'all see us. So anyway, we're going to go into our last guest, but she's a friend. She's a regular on this show. She is
a powerhouse.
She is a powerhouse. She is the chair of the California Reparations Task Force. She is a reparatory justice scholar. I could go on for days telling you how amazing this young woman is, but I'm just going to let her come in and you can see for yourself. So please welcome to Politics in Black, Chairwoman Camilla Moore.
Attorney Moore in the house.
And she's on the road. Look at her rolling. That's how you know you're a worker. You dedicated. You on the road, on a road trip. You still coming in here to tell us to lay some knowledge on us and give us some gems. So I appreciate you, Camilla.
So first things first, welcome to the show again. We got to give the dates for the December hearings that are coming up in San Francisco, Oakland.
Yeah.
Old Town.
Go ahead, Camilla. You got the floor.
Yes. So our next hearing is December. The California Reparations Task Force meets again in person, December 14th and 15th in Oakland, California. So that will be a Wednesday and a Thursday. Oakland, California, location to be determined, but the California DOJ is working very hard to secure that.
Has an agenda been issued yet, Camilla?
So the agenda has not been issued. The agenda most likely will come out 15 to 10 days before the task force meeting by virtue of the Bagley-Keene Act. But as a preview, what we'll most likely be discussing is, at our September hearing, each of the different task force members selected a different chapter in our report. And so since September, we have been working alongside the DOJ, coming up with potential final reparation proposals surrounding the different chapters in the report. So for instance, I volunteered to come up with preliminary final proposals for Chapter 2 on enslavement and Chapter 9 on control over intellectual and creative life. So I have, that assignment. So yeah. I can't give too much information away, but essentially during that time, December 14th and 15th, the different task force members will be discussing the different preliminary final proposals that we came up with those chapters. And then also on the evening of the 14th, we're having an evening event where we're inviting people to provide personal testimony on the atrocities they've endured as African Americans. And then we're also, during the actual public hearing, inviting leaders of different municipal reparations initiatives, including the Los Angeles Reparations Commission, so that we can all get on the same page and learn about the different municipal reparative justice initiatives going on in the state.
This is incredibly exciting, Camilla.
Exciting.
This is what we've been working. Like I'm
listening
to you talking. I'm vibrating here, right? So this is what we've been working for. We are at the proposal phase. And
finally,
so just so folks are clear, the task force is completely on schedule as well, right? Like I think you're ahead of schedule, if I'm correct. Is that right?
Yeah, we are ahead of schedule. So if you look at the statute, AB 3121, it states that we should have 10 meetings, up to 10 in-person reimbursable meetings, but we took advantage of being virtual. So we've had over 12 meetings thus far. And so we're going to have probably 20 by the end of the task force in June of next year.
So you've been on a whirlwind. Let's talk about the NAACP Hawaii, and I think it's NAACP California coming behind the AB 3121 task force and publicly supporting the work of the task force. Talk a little bit about that.
Yes, so we are looking to, collaborate, so to speak, enlist, actually, I think is the more appropriate word, enlist stalwart organizations, Black legacy organizations, also multicultural organizations to endorse the California Reparations Task Force. In light of, the light at the end of the tunnel, we know that, the task force is limited in scope. We have the power to study and develop reparations proposals, but it's going to be up to the California State Legislature to actually enact our final proposals into law. And so we definitely need a broad-based coalition of supporters throughout the state of California and across the nation to really ensure that these policies become implemented. And so that was kind of the spirit around us being invited to speak at the California Hawaii NAACP. So I was on a panel with Vice Chair Brown and Tiffany Quarles from NAASD-LA, as well as Mike Brown from the New Democratic Frontier organization.
Ooh, Mike Brown.
Mike
Davis.
Mike Davis.
Mike Davis. Yeah. Oh my gosh, excuse me, Mike Davis. And at the end of our town hall, the NAACP California and Hawaii delegates unanimously decided to support the task force and our findings.
Yeah, that's huge. And congratulations on that. And just as a quick aside, NAACP Nationals, Derek, where you at, brother?
Yeah, and I commend you. I commend Tiffany Quarles. I commend, Mike Davis for all of his hard work. He's been such a friend to the reparations community. But High Point, North Carolina has a commission. Their NAACP actually championed their resolution for the reparations commission. And they are really knocking heads right now with regards to the lineage language. Yeah. I don't believe their commission adopted like that lineage specific language early on, and it's turned into a point of opposition. And so are you able to speak on, as you're talking about coalition building, there was a member of the High Point Commission that was actually arrested for trying to further the lineage conversation, Dawn Page. Can you talk about the expectations, from these national orgs, right? NAACP is a national org. NAASD is a national org. And the role that they should be playing, or how should they be standing up, because we have national orgs like NCOBRA writing themselves into legislation, and I don't think that's the right way to go as the president of a national org. But as you are building Coalition for California, can you talk about how you'd like to see some of the national legacy organizations participate in this space?
Yes, and so again, I can't speak on behalf of the task force, but speaking as an individual, I will say what I hope that organizations, legacy or not, take from the California Reparations Task Force to potentially apply to different state initiatives, municipal initiatives. One is the precedent that the California has already set around lineage-based reparations, and so the hope personally is that that precedent spreads across the nation, through local and state reparations initiatives. And I hope that then accelerates, the federal push for reparations. Also, I think the other thing that I hope that folks take from the California Reparations Task Force is the interim report. You can literally use the interim report as an organizing tool, as an educational tool, to advocate for reparative justice initiatives where you are, no matter where you are in this nation. You can use that report to leverage and mobilize for a federal push for reparations. And then, to the point around, certain organizations having outsized influence. I think the work that NAASD is doing and the organizations affiliated with it are doing amazing work in trying to do what they can in terms of, counter influencing kind of what we see as potentially problematic.
Yeah, no, and thank you for mentioning that interim report, because I don't think we can talk about that enough. We were on a call the other day with Allen Temple Baptist Church, and Dr. Darity referenced it, and he said what we all agree on, that it's the most comprehensive report on Black America since the Kerner Commission report in the late 60s. So thank you for bringing that up. I want to go, because Camilla, I'm excited. We talking money now, right? We've got teams that are talking about cash. What does cash look like? And you
5 meal tickets.
You set off. You heard my crew in here, right? You set off a little bit of a firestorm with us, right? When you were quoted, I forget the publication, but you were quoted as saying reparations for Black Californians or freedmen Californians could be upwards of $1 million per individual. So I want to go right there. I'm gonna go to the cash. I'm gonna go to the money. I want to allow you to give some more context around that statement and just let us know, when can I expect my money?
Sure. Yeah, so that was the Harvard Public Health magazine. I gave the closing keynote at their Reparations Health Symposium. And so they actually kind of misquoted me, because what I was talking about was in the economic consulting team, we've hired 5 people to help us crunch the numbers about what reparations in the form of compensation can look like for certain state-sanctioned atrocities against the African-American community, one of them being health harms. And so I was talking about that at my closing keynote at Harvard Public Health.
Oh, we lost. Oh, she's on the road. She's moving. We lost you, Camilla.
There we go.
You froze for just a second. Go ahead. We got you back. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. So just for health harm, Black Americans who descend from slavery in California could be eligible for over $1 million when you take into account the life expectancy gap between white Californians and African-American Californians. There's a whole formula to that. Yeah. But the other 4 atrocities that the economists have identified, and again, they've identified these 4 other atrocities using data to justify the numbers they're coming up with. And so, again, in their September hearing, and they'll explain this more in detail at the December hearing and future hearings. The other atrocities we've outlined are devaluation of Black businesses, over-policing and mass incarceration, unjust property takings, and housing discrimination and homelessness, as well as health harms. So with those 5 harms, African-American Californians could be eligible for reparations in the form of compensation for those particular harms. And there's formulas for each of those harms, really complicated, but you can go to our meeting materials to dig in for further details. And again, stay tuned to our next hearing in December.
Okay.
Awesome.
Okay.
So
in process, in negotiations, I don't need to send you my direct deposit information just yet, And so folks don't start calling up saying like, here's where you can mail my check.
September meeting materials, page 151. If you want to dig in, don't start making calls.
Right.
We wanted to just get you in here to give a quick update.
Yeah.
You're on the road. We have one last minute here. Give people your social media because the information you do put out is very valuable. It's informative about the commission. Let folks know how they can follow you on
Camilla.
social
If you're not following,
media.
Get with this. Come on. Go ahead, Camilla.
You can follow me on Twitter at Camila B. Moore, and my website is CamilaMoore.com. Stay engaged. You can attend our Oakland meeting in person or virtually. And by stay engaged, think about it. If you have any health harms, if you are, had, a victim of unjust property taking, if you've been a victim of housing discrimination or homelessness or over policing and mass incarceration, or if you have family or friends who are African American descendants of slaves who have been impacted by these harms, that means that you have to stay even more engaged because you could be eligible for reparations in the form of compensation. And again, it's a victim group that decides what the repair looks like. So this is a critical moment for folks to be engaged and help inform the process.
Well, there it is. You
All
heard
right.
it.
You got the update from the Chair Moore
directly
herself.
From the chair. Yeah. Be careful on the road, Camilla. Get back to us safe.
Thank
and
you so
again.
much.
Thank you. I wish I was able to be in the studio with you all, but next time.
Next
We're
time.
going to see you soon.
Yeah.
You talking about 5 meal tickets. I'm gonna definitely be right there talking to you.
Okay. And before we go out, we're on time here. I want to quickly pull up that A9435 from our folder, page 4 with the highlights. I really just want to share this publicly. I want this to be documented. This
Show
is
folks the
very
issues.
important stuff.
We got to know these problems that are happening out here, y'all. And this is bad. This is bad.
Nope, it's the AB.
Oh, that's the wrong graphic, guys.
It's in our folder at A9435, I believe is what it says. It's just a number. It's the bill from New York.
What we're talking about is what's happening with legacy organizations, right? So you heard some of those names: the NARCs, the NCOBRAs, the IBWs, the First Repairs. They're all fruit of the same tree here. So we're seeing a disturbing pattern. And when we talk about the victim group, transparency to the victim group and the victim group being involved in a repair, this is
in our folder.
This
it's
is
in
the antithesis
the folder for today.
of what
this
we're talking
is
about.
Hugely important. That's why I was trying to move everything up 5 minutes. We got to show this on air. I don't really push for too much, and I'm pushing for this.
Y'all done messed around and made Friday mad up in here, y'all. I feel the heat coming off over. But what we're saying for those, while we look for that graphic, what we are saying is there's a disturbing pattern that we're seeing, and just like we heard in Chicago or Illinois, where the community and Lucretia and other community groups were not necessarily engaged in the process early on. We're seeing that pattern repeat itself, in other places around the country where we have these same organizations popping up and, quite frankly, locking us out of the process. So here we go.
Let's scroll up to page 4 where the highlights are, please. Freeze right there. I want that on camera. And you guys, we're getting out of here. This says at point 6, as the membership, just like you heard us talking about Illinois, how the membership is appointed, that happens in all commissions. NCOBRA, IBW literally wrote themselves by name into legislation. That is unprecedented and unheard of, and it is absolutely unacceptable and unethical. As a national organization, there is at no point that you should be superseding the harmed classes in these municipalities and in these states. It is the reparationist organizations and leaders from these municipalities that should be front and center. And as a national leader, you should be supporting them. That is what NAASD does. That is how we grow our network. That is the work. I do not know what these people are doing. And I needed this to be documented because it's unacceptable and it's not okay. Absolutely. On that note, we're ending Politics in Black.
Yeah.
Follow us on social media. I am Friday Jones. This
Brown.
is Chad Boogie, also known as Chad Brown. We are here for you.
Wait. Before we go, I got one thing. First of all, everyone enjoy your holidays that are coming up next week, your Thanksgiving with your families, talk about reparations around the table. But I have to wish my beautiful wife a happy anniversary.
Aww.
She's been dealing with me all this time, and I'm not easy, y'all. Y'all see, I'm not easy to deal with, and she been rocking with me for a minute here. So
Miss Pat, happy anniversary.
But baby, happy anniversary. I love you. I'm coming home. And with that, we out.
We're out. Thank you. Oh, we're on hiatus.
Oh,
We're
yeah.
back next year. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, fam. Peace. Our issues, our voices, our views. This is Politics